In the sprawling cosmos, humanity had stretched its fingers into the dark, touching worlds light years away from the familiar blue dot they once called home. The year 2478 marked another stride in this cosmic ballet, with humans settling on Zitharon, a distant, mineral-rich planet in the Orion arm of the Milky Way. Zitharon was not just another rock floating in the void, it was a treasure trove, laden with rhyolite, a rare mineral that powered advanced quantum engines, making interstellar travel faster than ever. A small, multinational mining crew had established a base, Zitharon Alpha, where they drilled deep into the planet's crust, searching for veins of the precious mineral. The team was led by Captain Marcus Reed, a seasoned space explorer whose eyes had seen many worlds, yet none as quietly foreboding as Zitharon. The planet's atmosphere was thin, mostly argon and nitrogen, and its surface was covered with vast deserts of black sand that shimmered with a metallic sheen under the starlight. On what seemed like a routine excavation day, the crew's driller, a robust machine named Titan, hit something unexpected about 2 miles beneath the surface. The ground trembled, not with the usual rumble of mining, but with a sharp, resonant clang. The crew halted operations immediately. Sensors indicated that Titan had struck not rhyolite, but a metallic object of non-terrestrial origin. "Looks like we've got something big, Cap," said Jiao Wang, the chief engineer, her voice crackling over the comms as she analyzed the sensor data from the safety of Zitharon Alpha's control room. Marcus peered into the pit created by Titan's drill. The edges were illuminated by the harsh lights of their setup, revealing glimpses of something that certainly wasn't rock or ore. "All right, let's get a closer look. Jia, suit up and meet me at the site." Minutes later, both were at the edge of the excavation site, their suits protecting them from the thin, cold atmosphere. They rappelled down into the crevasse, their lights cutting through the darkness. As they reached the bottom, their boots landed on a smooth, metallic surface that was distinctly artificial. The object was large and oval, adorned with symbols that neither Marcus nor Jia recognized. It was undeniably alien, its surface bore the complexity and deliberate design that nature could not mimic. "I've never seen anything like this," Jia whispered, her voice filled with awe and a hint of apprehension. She ran her gloved hands over the symbols, her suit's sensors recording every detail. Marcus examined the perimeter of the object. It was embedded deeply into the ground, suggesting it had been there for millennia. "Let's get some samples and images back to HQ. They'll want a full analysis." As they prepared to collect data, the ground beneath them shifted slightly. Alarms blared in their suits, a sign of structural instability. "We need to move, now," Marcus commanded, just as a faint hum began to emanate from the object. They scrambled to ascend their ropes. As they reached the surface, the hum grew into a roar, and with a burst of light, the object revealed itself fully. It was not just a relic, but a sarcophagus, opening slowly, methodically. Standing at the rim of the excavation site, Marcus and Jia could only stare in disbelief as the sarcophagus opened completely, revealing its contents. Amidst a cold fog that poured out like the breath of a waking giant, they saw it, a creature, the Zoltrak, its eyes opening for the first time in an age, fixing its gaze not on the stars above, but on the humans before it. This was the beginning of a new chapter in human history, on a remote planet far from home, under the watchful eyes of the galaxy's most feared yet enigmatic predator. The questions were many, the implications enormous, and for Captain Marcus Reed and his crew, the real mission on Zitharon was just beginning. Back on Earth, Dr. Lena Morris was nestled in the archives of the Galactic Historical Society, her eyes scanning through holographic data tablets filled with ancient scripts and celestial maps. An expert in exobiology and ancient alien civilizations, Lena's curiosity was piqued when she received a secure transmission from Zitharon. The video clip showed a creature of immense size and peculiar morphology, recently awakened from a mysterious sarcophagus uncovered by the mining team. Intrigued, Lena initiated a deep dive into the historical records, searching for any reference to similar beings or artifacts. Hours turned into days as she sifted through digital tomes and consulted with other historians via the Interstellar Communication Network. Her breakthrough came when she stumbled upon a faded document, hidden among the lesser-known compendiums of cosmic lore. It spoke of the Zoltrak, a name that echoed through the halls of forgotten myths. According to the document, the Zoltrak was engineered by a long-extinct race known as the Alkari. This civilization had reached its zenith when humans were still bound to the confines of their home planet. The Alkari, renowned for their bioengineering capabilities, had designed the Zoltrak as part of a grand experiment in planetary stewardship. The Zoltrak, the document revealed, was created to be a guardian of ecological balance. It was imbued with the intelligence to assess threats to the ecosystems of the planets it inhabited. However, the most striking feature of its design was a programmed aversion to attacking species classified as non-aggressive or beneficial to planetary health, which apparently included humans. Fascinated by the implications, Lena planned an expedition to Zitharon. She believed that direct observation and interaction with the Zoltrak would provide invaluable insights into both its biology and the ancient technologies of the Alkari. Preparing for the journey, she gathered a small team of scientists and engineers, each specialized in different fields relevant to the mission. The preparations were meticulous. The team was equipped with the latest in survival gear, scientific instruments, and defensive technologies. Despite the potential dangers, the excitement was palpable. They were on the verge of making first contact with a creature out of legend. Weeks later, Lena and her team landed on Zitharon. The planet greeted them with its stark, barren landscapes and the eerie beauty of its deserts. They set up base camp near the excavation site where the Zoltrak was found, ensuring they were well outside its immediate vicinity to avoid any aggressive behavior it might display. Their first encounter with the Zoltrak came sooner than expected. While setting up remote sensors around the area, Lena spotted the creature observing them from a distance. Its enormous size was intimidating, but it made no move to approach. Instead, it seemed to be studying them, its deep, intelligent eyes scrutinizing every action they took. Lena instructed her team to avoid any sudden movements that could be perceived as a threat. Slowly, she approached the creature, her body language open and non-threatening. To her astonishment, the Zoltrak retreated, maintaining a safe distance between them but never taking its eyes off her. Over the following days, Lena and her team observed the creature's behaviors. It roamed the landscape, seemingly patrolling predefined routes. It interacted with other native species, but always in a way that seemed protective rather than predatory. The Zoltrak's behavior was a living testament to the Alkari's engineering prowess and their philosophy of ecological preservation. Back at camp, Lena documented every interaction, every observation. She hypothesized that the Zoltrak was not just a biological entity but a key to understanding a long-lost approach to living in harmony with the cosmos. Her reports back to Earth generated excitement and debate among the scientific community. As she prepared for a closer examination of the creature, Lena knew that she was standing on the threshold of a new understanding of life in the universe. The Zoltrak was more than a creature, it was a bridge to the past and a guide for the future of interstellar ecological management. Her next steps would need to be careful and calculated, for the secrets of the Zoltrak were ancient and deep, woven into the very fabric of the stars. As the orange hues of Zitharon's twin suns dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the desert landscape, Dr. Lena Morris and her team prepared for what could be the most significant night of their expedition. They had been observing the Zoltrak from a distance for days, noting its patterns and behaviors, which seemed to oscillate between curious observation and cautious avoidance. Lena had devised a plan to initiate a controlled encounter. She theorized that the Zoltrak's nocturnal activities could provide the perfect opportunity for a closer observation, possibly even interaction, under less threatening conditions. The team set up a perimeter of non-invasive sensors around a clearing where the creature had frequently been spotted. They then retreated to a safe distance, monitoring the sensors from their mobile command center. Hours into the night, the sensors picked up movement. A silhouette, large and imposing, gracefully navigated through the darkness towards the clearing. It was the Zoltrak, its form visible through the night vision cameras. Lena watched, breath held, as it paused at the edge of the clearing, its head turning slowly as if scanning for danger. "Okay, everyone, stay calm and quiet," Lena instructed her team, her voice barely a whisper. "Let's see what it does." The Zoltrak stepped into the clearing, the sensors picking up its every move but emitting no sound or light that might startle it. It moved to the center, then stopped, looking around as if aware of their presence yet uncertain of their intent. Lena decided it was time to try communicating. She stepped out of the command center, a portable light source casting a soft glow around her to signal her presence without overwhelming the creature. With every step she took towards the clearing, her heart raced with a mixture of fear and excitement. As Lena entered the perimeter, the Zoltrak reared back slightly. She stopped, showing her palms in a universal gesture of peace. "We're not here to harm you," she said softly, knowing the creature might not understand her words but hoping it would sense her intentions. To her astonishment, the Zoltrak did not flee. Instead, it tilted its head, watching her with an intensity that felt almost analytical. Lena took another slow step forward. The Zoltrak mirrored her, taking a step of its own towards her. They continued this dance of slow, deliberate movements until only a few meters separated them. Lena could see now the intricate patterns on its skin, bioluminescent markings that glowed faintly in the moonlight, and the deep intelligence in its eyes. "I think it's trying to understand us just as much as we are trying to understand it," Lena murmured, almost to herself. For several minutes, human and creature stood there, observing each other in a mutual, silent dialogue. Then, as if deciding this initial meeting was enough, the Zoltrak turned and slowly walked back to the darkness of the desert. Lena let out the breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding and walked back to her team, who had been watching in awe. "Did you get all that on camera?" she asked. "Every second," replied her technician, his voice filled with wonder. The next morning, the team gathered to review the footage and discuss the encounter. It was clear from the Zoltrak's body language that it was cautious but not inherently fearful or aggressive towards them. "This changes everything," Lena said, addressing her team. "Our approach from here on needs to be one of diplomacy as much as research. We are dealing with a highly intelligent being, potentially one of the last of its kind. We need to learn from it, and perhaps, in time, earn its trust." The team nodded in agreement, each member aware of the gravity of their task. They were not just researchers on this distant planet, they were ambassadors to one of the galaxy's most enigmatic creatures. Lena spent the rest of the day drafting a detailed report to send back to Earth. Her findings could reshape human understanding of interspecies communication and the ethical implications of their expansion into the cosmos. With each word she typed, she knew she was documenting what could be the beginning of a new chapter in human history. As Dr. Lena Morris finalized her initial reports, her mind kept circling back to the Zoltrak's deliberate behavior during their encounter. It was unlike any other predator she had studied. There was an eerie calm about the creature, an intelligence that seemed far removed from the instinct-driven responses of typical apex predators. This mystery deepened her resolve to uncover the truth behind the ancient artifact that had housed it, and the Zoltrak itself. In the days that followed, Lena and her team focused on the artifact from which the Zoltrak had emerged. Using advanced imaging tools and holographic projectors, they examined the alien symbols etched into its surface. Jia Wang, the team's engineer and linguist, meticulously translated what she could, matching the glyphs to known patterns from ancient alien civilizations. "It's definitely Alkari," Jia said one evening, her voice carrying both excitement and trepidation. The Alkari had been a near-mythical civilization, existing millions of years before humanity's recorded history. Known primarily from fragments of ruins scattered across the galaxy, their technological prowess was unparalleled, blending advanced engineering with bioorganic systems. "What's it say?" Lena asked, peering over Jia's shoulder at the holographic display. Jia zoomed in on one specific section of glyphs. "This part seems to reference balancers." It describes creatures designed to preserve the ecological equilibrium of the planets they inhabit. The Zoltrak appears to be one of them. The room went quiet as the implications sank in. Lena spoke first. So, it was engineered, not evolved, by the Alkari to maintain balance? Exactly, Jia replied. But here's the twist, it wasn't just meant to be a predator. The text implies that the Zoltrak has a built-in aversion to certain species deemed harmless or non-threatening. It's like a safeguard to prevent it from upsetting the balance it's meant to protect. Could that explain why it didn't attack us? Asked Lucas, one of the zoologists on the team. It's possible, Jia nodded. The Alkari might have encoded humanity, or something genetically similar to us, into its recognition patterns as a protected species. To test this hypothesis, Lena proposed an experiment. Using holographic projections of various species, some predatory, some herbivorous, they set up a controlled environment to observe how the Zoltrak would respond. The team placed these projections within the Zoltrak's known patrol routes and monitored its behavior using remote cameras. The results were striking. When presented with images of predatory animals, even alien species unrelated to Zitharon, the Zoltrak reacted swiftly and decisively, assuming a defensive posture and emitting low-frequency growls that vibrated through the air. In contrast, when holograms of harmless creatures were projected, it exhibited no aggression, instead displaying what could only be described as curiosity. Finally, the team introduced a human hologram. The Zoltrak paused, its glowing eyes scanning the projection. It neither attacked nor retreated but stood still, as if recognizing something familiar. It's working, Lena said, her voice barely above a whisper. It knows we're not a threat. This revelation confirmed their theory. The Zoltrak was programmed, at a genetic level, to avoid harming humans or creatures it deemed non-threatening. But questions lingered. Why had the Alkari gone to such lengths to protect species like humans? And what role had the Zoltrak played in their grand designs? As the team delved deeper into the artifact, they discovered a hidden chamber within its structure. Using laser drills, they carefully removed a panel, revealing a small, spherical device. Its surface was etched with intricate patterns, glowing faintly as Lena held it up to the light. "What is it?" asked Lucas. "A data core," Jia replied, her eyes wide. "If it still works, it might contain records from the Alkari." Carefully connecting the core to their systems, Jia worked tirelessly to decrypt its contents. Hours later, a fragmented but functional message played on their screens. The hologram depicted an Alkari, tall and willowy, with translucent skin that shimmered like liquid light. The Alkari's voice, though distorted, carried an eerie serenity. "To those who awaken the balancer, know this, the Zoltrak was not created to destroy but to preserve. It is bound by our design to protect the harmony of life. Among its directives, one stands paramount, to safeguard the seed-bearers, the potential stewards of this galaxy." "The seed-bearers?" Lena repeated, frowning. "Does it mean us?" Jia nodded. "It makes sense. If the Alkari viewed certain species, like humans, as having potential to inherit their legacy, they would have engineered safeguards to ensure we weren't eradicated by creatures like the Zoltrak." The hologram continued, though parts of it were garbled. "Beware, imbalance, predatory forces awakened, not all creatures obey their purpose." The transmission ended abruptly, leaving the room in stunned silence. The message raised as many questions as it answered. The Alkari's mention of predatory forces suggested that the Zoltrak might not be the only entity of its kind, or that others, engineered for different purposes, might have gone rogue. "We have to consider the possibility that whatever else is out there may not share the Zoltrak's protective instincts toward us," Lena said grimly. "The mining operations on Zitharon could have disturbed something far worse." Her words proved prophetic. 2 days later, an alarm blared through their camp. A nearby mining site had gone dark, with all communication abruptly cut off. The team mobilized, sending drones to investigate. The footage they received was horrifying. The site was in ruins, machinery twisted and shattered, and the miners were gone. Lena felt a chill run down her spine. "This isn't the Zoltrak." It wouldn't destroy without cause. If it's not the Zoltrak, Lucas said hesitantly, then what is it? Their question was answered sooner than they had hoped. That night, a deep, guttural roar echoed across the desert, unlike anything they had heard before. The ground trembled as something massive approached their camp. The Zoltrak appeared on the horizon, its bioluminescent patterns glowing fiercely as it let out a call of its own, a warning, perhaps, or a challenge. Whatever the new threat was, it was coming, and the Zoltrak seemed ready to defend its territory. Lena and her team stood on the precipice of understanding an ancient ecosystem far beyond their control. The secrets of the Alchemy were unraveling, but at what cost? The Zoltrak had its purpose, but it was clear now that other forces, perhaps equally ancient and engineered, were awakening, and they might not share the Zoltrak's restraint. The distant roar had barely faded when Dr. Lena Morris and her team scrambled into action. The sound, deep and resonant, vibrated through the air and sent a chill down their spines. It was a sound that spoke of ancient power and primal fury, something entirely different from the calculated presence of the Zoltrak. Status report. Lena shouted over the comms as she and her team rushed to the observation deck of their camp. Seismic activity detected half a kilometer west, Jiao Wang reported, her voice tense. It's big, and it's moving fast. The holographic map displayed a pulsing red dot moving toward their camp. It was massive, far larger than the Zoltrak. Whatever it was, it had been disturbed, perhaps by the mining operations on Zitharon. The team braced themselves for the unknown. Through the observation deck's reinforced glass, Lena could see the Zoltrak standing on a distant ridge, its bioluminescent markings glowing brightly against the night. It let out a series of low-frequency calls, each one reverberating through the ground. It's signaling something, Lucas, the zoologist, said. But is it a warning? Or a challenge? Before anyone could answer, the ground trembled violently, knocking several team members off their feet. A shape emerged from the darkness, larger than anything they had anticipated. The creature was hulking, with jagged, chitinous armor covering its body. Its eyes glowed a fiery orange, and it moved with terrifying speed for something of its size. What in the name of, Jia started, but her words were drowned out by the creature's deafening roar. The Zoltrak responded immediately, launching itself from the ridge and charging toward the intruder. The two titans collided with a force that shook the ground, their roars echoing across the desert. Lena watched in awe and horror as the Zoltrak engaged the other creature. It became clear that the new threat, dubbed the Revenant by the team, was every bit as deadly as the Zoltrak, but without its restraint. The Revenant fought with savage ferocity, aiming to maim and destroy. The Zoltrak, by contrast, displayed a calculated precision, avoiding collateral damage to the environment and keeping the fight away from the human camp. It was as though it understood the stakes were higher than just survival, it was protecting something. Lena, we need to move. Jia yelled, pulling her attention back to the team. If they get any closer, we're sitting ducks. Reluctantly, Lena gave the order to evacuate the camp. The team quickly gathered their equipment and retreated to a safer location, setting up temporary observation stations farther from the battleground. From their new vantage point, they could see the fight more clearly. The Zoltrak used its agility and intelligence to outmaneuver the Revenant, striking at weak points in its armor. However, the Revenant's brute strength made it a formidable opponent. Each blow it landed shook the ground and left deep scars on the Zoltrak's hide. What is that thing? Lucas asked, his voice filled with dread. Lena shook her head. I don't know, but it's not natural. The Alchemy records mentioned predatory forces. This must be one of them, an engineered creature like the Zoltrak, but designed for destruction, not balance. As the battle raged, Jia continued analyzing the data they had collected from the artifact. She discovered a previously overlooked section of the Alchemy data core that contained fragmented records about the Revenant. This isn't just another predator, Jia said, her fingers flying across the control panel. It was part of the Alchemy's failsafe, a countermeasure to their balancers. If a balancer ever deviated from its programming, these creatures would awaken to neutralize it. Lena's face paled. But the Zoltrak hasn't deviated. It's following its programming perfectly. That's the problem, Jia replied. The mining operations must have triggered the Revenant prematurely. It doesn't care whether the Zoltrak is following its purpose, it sees it as a threat, and by extension, it sees us as part of the problem. As the Revenant began to gain the upper hand in the fight, the team realized they couldn't simply stand by. If the Zoltrak fell, the Revenant would likely turn its attention to the human settlement. They needed to act, and fast. We need to help the Zoltrak, Lena said firmly, addressing her team. Help it? Lucas exclaimed. How? That thing is the size of a starship. We can't fight the Revenant directly, Lena admitted, but we can use the artifact. If it was designed by the Valkyrie, it might have controls or commands we can use to disrupt the Revenant. The team quickly assembled a plan. Jia and a few others would return to the artifact and attempt to interface with its systems, searching for a way to shut down the Revenant. Meanwhile, Lena and Lucas would stay at the observation station to monitor the battle and provide real-time updates. As Jia's team reached the artifact, they worked quickly to decrypt its remaining systems. There's a failsafe here, Jia said, her voice tense. A command sequence that could disable the Revenant, but it requires a direct signal. We'll need to get closer. Do it, Lena urged over the comms. We'll buy you as much time as we can. The battle between the Zoltrak and the Revenant had reached its climax. The Zoltrak was injured, its movements slowing, but it continued to fight with unwavering determination. The Revenant, sensing victory, pressed its advantage, its roars shaking the very air. Jia's team managed to activate the artifact's failsafe, but the signal needed to be amplified to reach the Revenant. Using a portable transmitter, they positioned themselves perilously close to the battlefield, calibrating the device to send the command. Hurry! Lena shouted over the comms. The Zoltrak can't hold out much longer. At the last moment, the transmitter activated. A pulse of energy surged from the artifact, washing over the Revenant. The creature froze mid-attack, its orange eyes dimming as it let out a guttural growl. Slowly, it collapsed to the ground, motionless. The Zoltrak, battered and bloodied, let out a low, resonant call. It was not a victory cry but a somber acknowledgement of the balance restored. As dawn broke over Zitharon, Lena and her team approached the Zoltrak cautiously. It stood tall but visibly weakened, its bioluminescent markings dim. For a moment, it looked down at Lena, its eyes meeting hers with what she could only describe as gratitude. Then, with deliberate steps, it turned and disappeared into the desert. The team regrouped at their temporary base, exhausted but relieved. The Revenant's remains were studied and catalogued, and the artifact was secured to prevent further accidental activations. Lena's report to Earth concluded with a stark warning: we are not alone in the cosmos, and our actions have consequences. The Valkyrie designed these creatures to preserve balance, but our interference nearly destroyed it. Let this be a lesson in humility and responsibility as we continue to explore the stars. The chapter ended with humanity's first steps toward understanding not just the Zoltrak but the greater cosmic forces at play, a delicate balance that they had narrowly managed to preserve. The dawn after the Revenant's defeat broke in muted colors over the black sands of Zitharon. The air was heavy with silence, punctuated only by the occasional metallic creak of the mining outpost's damaged equipment. Dr. Lena Morris and her team gathered around a makeshift table in their temporary command center, the events of the previous night still weighing heavily on their minds. The Zoltrak, though victorious, was gravely injured. Its bioluminescent markings, which had glowed brightly during the battle, were now dim, pulsating faintly as if mirroring the rhythm of its shallow breaths. Though it had retreated to the distant ridges, Lena couldn't shake the feeling that their fates were now deeply intertwined. Lena and her team decided to attempt direct assistance to the Zoltrak. While the creature was far from human, its injuries were visibly severe, with jagged wounds across its armored hide and trails of bioluminescent ichor marking its path. It was a bold decision, one fraught with danger, but Lena believed that their survival, and perhaps the survival of humanity's future on Zitharon, depended on fostering a connection with the creature. the team prepared a mix of medical drones, equipped with nanite-infused regenerative agents designed to aid alien species. The drones were initially developed for emergencies in uncharted biomes, and Lena hoped they would be compatible with the Zoltrak's physiology. The first challenge was approaching the creature without alarming it. Using the observation data from previous encounters, Lena mapped out a careful route to its location on the ridges. She and Lucas led the team, accompanied by 2 hovering medical drones and a small rover carrying additional supplies. As they drew closer, the Zoltrak raised its head. Its glowing eyes locked onto them, and it let out a low, rumbling growl. Lena halted, raising her hands in a gesture of peace. The drones hovered silently behind her, their movements slow and deliberate. "It's okay," Lena said softly, knowing the words were meaningless to the creature but hoping the tone conveyed her intent. "We're here to help." The Zoltrak didn't retreat, nor did it advance. It simply watched, its massive frame taut with caution. Taking this as a tentative sign of trust, Lena directed one of the drones forward. It hovered close to the creature, scanning its injuries and emitting a soothing hum. The Zoltrak flinched slightly but didn't attack. The drone released a fine mist of regenerative nanites over the largest of the Zoltrak's wounds. Within moments, the ichor stopped seeping, and the edges of the wound began to knit together. The creature's eyes flickered as it watched the drone work, its massive head tilting slightly as if in curiosity. "It's letting us help," Lucas whispered, awe in his voice. Lena nodded, her own wonder mirrored in her expression. This wasn't just an apex predator, it was a thinking, reasoning being capable of recognizing intent. Over the next few days, the Zoltrak's recovery became a cautious collaboration. It allowed the drones to continue their work, though it remained vigilant, never fully relaxing in the team's presence. Lena and her team took turns observing it, documenting its behavior in detail. They began to notice patterns that suggested an intelligence far beyond instinct. The Zoltrak appeared to analyze its environment with a level of awareness that bordered on strategic thinking. It avoided damaging plants or disturbing smaller creatures, reinforcing the alchemy records that described it as a balancer. One evening, while Lena was observing the Zoltrak from a distance, it surprised her by approaching the edge of their camp. The team froze, unsure of its intent, but it simply stood there, its glowing eyes scanning their setup. Then, in an act that left them speechless, it crouched low, lowering its massive head to their level. "It's not threatening us," Lucas said, breaking the silence. "It's studying us." Lena cautiously approached, her movements slow and deliberate. She held out her hand, knowing full well the gesture was symbolic at best. The Zoltrak let out a soft rumble, its eyes narrowing slightly. Then, as if satisfied, it rose and returned to the ridge. "It's acknowledging us," Lena said, her voice trembling with a mixture of fear and exhilaration. "It knows we're not just observers. It's treating us like allies." Meanwhile, Jia continued her work on the alchemy artifact, uncovering more fragments of the ancient civilization's records. She discovered a chilling entry detailing the Revenant and its purpose. The Revenant was part of a failsafe system, Jia explained during a briefing. It was designed not just to neutralize rogue balancers but to act as a final line of defense against planetary threats. Its awakening signals a critical imbalance in the ecosystem, something the alchemy would have considered catastrophic. "What kind of imbalance?" Lena asked. Jia hesitated. "The records are fragmented, but it mentions something called the shadow cycle. It seems to be a natural phenomenon, something the alchemy feared deeply." Lena frowned. Could the mining operations have triggered it? "It's possible," Jia admitted. "But it might be something larger. The Revenant waking up could be a symptom, not the cause." As the team pondered the implications, the Zoltrak's behavior took an unexpected turn. It began to lead them, subtly but unmistakably, toward a new location deeper within Zitharon's desert. The team followed cautiously, their rover laden with supplies and equipment. After hours of travel, they arrived at a massive cavern, its entrance concealed by jagged rock formations. The Zoltrak paused at the entrance, turning to look at them as if inviting them inside. "What do you think it wants us to see?" Lucas asked. There's only one way to find out, Lena replied. Inside, the cavern was unlike anything they had seen. Bioluminescent plants covered the walls, casting a soft, ethereal glow. In the center of the chamber stood another artifact, larger and more intricate than the first. It pulsed with a steady, rhythmic light, as though alive. This must be another Alchemy creation, Jia said, her voice filled with awe. It's beautiful. As the team approached, the artifact activated. A holographic display filled the cavern, showing a star map and a series of symbols. Lena recognized the layout. It was a map of Zitharon's ecosystem, with nodes representing key points of balance. The Zoltrak brought us here for a reason, Lena said. It's showing us what we need to do. The artifact's display revealed a series of changes that had disrupted Zitharon's ecosystem, likely due to human activity. It also outlined steps to restore balance, including rerouting mining operations and re-establishing certain ecological zones. It's a blueprint for restoration, Jia said, her fingers flying over her tablet as she recorded the data. The Zoltrak watched them silently, its massive form a steady presence in the cavern. Lena turned to it, a sense of gratitude welling in her chest. You brought us here to fix what we broke. The Zoltrak let out a low rumble, almost like an acknowledgement. In the days that followed, the team worked tirelessly to implement the artifact's instructions. They coordinated with Earth's ecological and mining authorities, halting disruptive operations and setting up protected zones. The Zoltrak continued to patrol the region, its presence a reminder of the delicate balance they were striving to maintain. As the first signs of ecological recovery appeared, Lena felt a profound sense of accomplishment. The Zoltrak, once seen as the galaxy's most terrifying predator, had become an unlikely ally. It had not only protected them but guided them toward a deeper understanding of their responsibility as interstellar explorers. Standing on the ridge one evening, Lena watched the Zoltrak disappear into the horizon, its bioluminescent markings glowing faintly against the darkening sky. She knew their journey was far from over, but for the first time, she felt a fragile hope, a belief that humanity could learn to coexist with the ancient forces of the universe. In the heart of Zitharon, a new balance was forming, and it was one that humans and the Zoltrak would protect together. As Zitharon's ecosystem began its slow recovery, humanity faced an undeniable truth: their actions had awakened forces far beyond their control. The collaboration with the Zoltrak had revealed the fragility of the cosmic balance, but it also brought with it a sense of purpose. The mining outpost, once focused solely on extracting resources, transformed into a research and preservation hub dedicated to understanding the intricate web of life on the planet. Dr. Lena Morris and her team became reluctant stewards of this transformation, tasked with overseeing the delicate restoration process. But just as they were beginning to celebrate progress, a new transmission from Earth arrived, signaling a more pressing challenge. The message from the Galactic Research Council was brief but alarming: multiple planets reporting anomalies resembling the shadow cycle. Patterns suggest a spreading phenomenon. Urgent investigation required. Zitharon team to lead. Lena gathered her team to discuss the transmission. The shadow cycle, as referenced in the Alchemy records, was still shrouded in mystery, but its mention in the new reports couldn't be ignored. The Revenant's premature awakening had hinted at larger, systemic imbalances across the galaxy. We're being asked to step up, Lena said, pacing the command room. Our work here on Zitharon might only be the beginning. If the shadow cycle is spreading, other ecosystems could be at risk, and we might be the only ones with the knowledge to stop it. Lucas frowned. But how? We barely managed to handle the Revenant here. If there are other creatures like it, or worse, on other planets, what can we do? We have an ally, Lena replied, her tone resolute. The Zoltrak isn't just a guardian of this planet. It's part of a network the Alchemy created to protect ecosystems. If we can learn to communicate with it more effectively, it could guide us. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity had spent centuries conquering new worlds, but now they faced a reckoning. They had to work with the guardians left behind by a far greater civilization. The first step in preparing for the larger mission was deepening their bond with the Zoltrak. Lena knew that while the creature had shown trust, their connection was still fragile. To strengthen it, the team developed a series of experiments to establish more direct communication. Using the holographic technology from the Valkyrie artifact, Jiao created a series of visual and auditory sequences designed to mimic the Zoltrak's bioluminescent and vocal patterns. The goal was to build a rudimentary language, one based on mutual understanding rather than dominance or submission. The process was painstaking. Early attempts resulted in confusion or indifference from the Zoltrak, but over time, it began to respond to the team's efforts. When Lena activated a specific sequence on the holographic projector, the Zoltrak mirrored the pattern with its bioluminescent markings, a breakthrough moment that left the team cheering. "We're not just observers anymore," Lena said, her voice filled with pride. "We're partners." The Zoltrak began to engage more actively with the team, leading them to previously unknown locations on Zitharon. These included underground caverns, hidden valleys, and even ancient Valkyrie ruins that held further clues about the shadow cycle. The ruins revealed a troubling truth: the cycle was not a natural phenomenon, but a consequence of the Valkyrie's advanced experiments with planetary ecosystems, a system that, without their guidance, had started to unravel. With the knowledge they had gathered, the team prepared for an interstellar mission. The Galactic Research Council provided a state-of-the-art ship, the Solace, equipped with advanced ecological monitoring systems and defensive capabilities. The Zoltrak, now a critical part of their mission, was transported aboard the ship in a specially designed containment habitat that mimicked Zitharon's environment. As they prepared to leave, Lena took one last look at the planet that had changed everything. Zitharon's black sands stretched endlessly under the light of its twin suns, a stark reminder of both the damage humanity could inflict and the resilience of the natural world. "This isn't goodbye," she murmured. "We'll be back." The team's first destination was Viridra, a lush planet on the outer rim of the galaxy. Reports indicated that its forests were dying at an alarming rate, with entire ecosystems collapsing in weeks. When the Solace arrived, the view from orbit was sobering. Vast swathes of once green land had turned a sickly gray, and the air was thick with swirling ash. As the team descended to the surface, the Zoltrak immediately became alert. Its bioluminescent patterns shifted rapidly, a sign that it sensed something amiss. Following its lead, the team discovered a massive sinkhole in the middle of what had once been a thriving jungle. The sinkhole led to an underground cavern, where they found another Valkyrie artifact, this one damaged and barely operational. Unlike the artifact on Zitharon, it emitted an unstable energy field, which seemed to be the source of the ecological collapse. Could this be another failsafe gone rogue? Lucas asked, examining the artifact. Possibly, Lena replied, but it's different. This one looks like it's been tampered with. Further investigation revealed that the artifact had been partially activated by human settlers, who had unknowingly disrupted its programming while trying to harness its energy. The unintended consequence had been the release of a corrosive agent into Viridra's ecosystem, a stark reminder of humanity's tendency to overreach. Working together, the team and the Zoltrak devised a plan to stabilize the artifact. Using the knowledge gained from Zitharon, Jiao reprogrammed the device to reverse the damage it had caused, while the Zoltrak guarded the team from hostile wildlife drawn to the unstable energy field. The process was fraught with danger. As the artifact's energy levels spiked, the Zoltrak let out a series of warning calls, shielding the team from a sudden burst of corrosive gas. Its actions underscored its role not just as a protector, but as an active participant in their mission. After hours of tense work, the artifact stabilized, and the ecological collapse slowed. The Zoltrak let out a low, resonant call, as if signaling success. Lena felt a wave of relief and gratitude. The team's success on Viridra was just the beginning. The data recovered from the artifact revealed a network of Valkyrie-created ecosystems across the galaxy, each with its own balancers and failsafes. Some were still functioning, but others had been compromised, either by natural events or human interference. The team realized that their mission was larger than they had anticipated. They were no longer just scientists or researchers, they were guardians, entrusted with preserving the galaxy's fragile balance. As the Solace set course for its next destination, Lena reflected on how far they had come. The Zoltrak, once seen as a fearsome predator, was now a symbol of cooperation and resilience. Humanity, too, was beginning to understand its place in the cosmos, not as conquerors, but as stewards. Standing on the observation deck, Lena watched the Zoltrak in its habitat, its bioluminescent patterns glowing softly in the dim light. It turned its head slightly, meeting her gaze, and she felt a connection deeper than words could convey. "We're in this together," she said softly. And for the first time, she truly believed it. The journey ahead would be long and uncertain, but with the Zoltrak by their side, Lena knew they had a chance to become not just explorers, but guardians of the galaxy. The Solace drifted through the vast expanse of the galaxy, its mission evolving with every new planet it visited. Dr. Lena Morris and her team had transformed from researchers to stewards, from accidental interlopers to intentional protectors. They were no longer driven solely by curiosity or the pursuit of knowledge. Their goal was to restore balance to the fragile systems left behind by the Alchemy. The Zoltrak had become an integral part of their mission, not merely a creature to study but a partner in their journey. Its presence was a constant reminder of the delicate equilibrium they sought to preserve, not through domination, but through understanding and cooperation. The Solace received a distress signal from Cenerus, a heavily colonized planet rich in resources but now teetering on ecological collapse. The planet had once been home to lush oceans and thriving marine life, but over-extraction of minerals had led to massive undersea earthquakes. These disruptions had awakened another ancient Alchemy guardian, one far more volatile than the Zoltrak. As the team approached Cenerus, the enormity of the task ahead became clear. From orbit, Lena could see massive oceanic dead zones spreading like ink stains across the planet's surface. The once teeming waters were now eerily still, reflecting the pale light of Cenerus's sun. "We've got seismic readings off the charts," Jiao reported from the bridge. "There's something massive moving below the ocean floor." Lucas leaned over her shoulder, pointing at the data stream. "That's no natural movement. It's too rhythmic, it's something alive." The Zoltrak, confined to its habitat aboard the ship, began to react. Its bioluminescent patterns pulsed in quick, erratic sequences, a stark contrast to its usual calm. Lena watched closely, noting the creature's agitation. "It knows," she murmured. "There's something down there, and it's not friendly." With the Solace station in orbit, Lena and a small team descended to the surface in a submersible equipped with advanced scanning technology. The Zoltrak, too large to accompany them, remained on the ship, but its presence lingered in Lena's mind as a source of courage. The submersible dove into the depths of Cenerus's oceans, where the light faded into an oppressive darkness. The water was thick with sediment, obscuring their view, but the scans painted a vivid picture of the devastation below. Entire ecosystems had been wiped out, leaving only skeletal remains of coral reefs and lifeless trenches. As they neared the epicenter of the seismic activity, their sensors picked up a massive structure embedded in the seabed. It was another Alchemy artifact, larger than any they had encountered before. Surrounding it was a massive creature, coiled like a serpent around the structure. "Is that?" Lucas's voice trailed off as the submersible's lights illuminated the creature. It was serpentine, with bioluminescent patterns similar to the Zoltrak's but far more chaotic, flickering in dissonant rhythms. Its movements were aggressive, erratic, as it slammed its massive body against the artifact, shaking the ocean floor with each strike. "It's a rogue balancer," Lena said, her voice filled with dread. "The Alchemy must have designed it to regulate oceanic systems, but the disruptions have driven it out of control." From orbit, the Solace sent an encrypted signal to the submersible. The Zoltrak was growing increasingly agitated. Its bioluminescence had shifted into a warning pattern, one the team had learned to associate with imminent danger. "It's reacting to the rogue balancer," Lena realized. "It's trying to warn us." The team needed to act quickly. The rogue creature's attacks were destabilizing the artifact, which appeared to regulate tectonic activity across Cenerus's oceans. If it was destroyed, the resulting earthquakes could devastate the planet. "We need to get the Zoltrak down here," Lena said, her mind racing. It's the only one that can stop this thing. Gia's voice came through the comms from the Solace. Lena, deploying the Zoltrak into the ocean is risky. We've never seen it in this kind of environment, and we don't know how it'll respond. We don't have a choice, Lena replied. The rogue balancer will destroy this planet if we don't act. Using specialized containment pods, the Solace transported the Zoltrak to the ocean surface. As the creature entered the water, its bioluminescent markings shifted to an entirely new pattern, one Lena had never seen before. It moved with surprising grace, adapting quickly to the aquatic environment. The submersible's crew watched in awe as the Zoltrak descended, its massive form cutting through the murky depths like a glowing sentinel. When it reached the rogue balancer, the confrontation was immediate. The two creatures clashed with a ferocity that shook the ocean. The rogue balancer, driven by erratic programming, lashed out wildly, but the Zoltrak fought with purpose. It used its intelligence to outmaneuver the rogue, targeting its vulnerable points with calculated precision. Lena and her team could only watch as the battle unfolded. The submersible shook with each impact, the sheer scale of the confrontation making them feel impossibly small. As the battle raged, Jiao worked from the Solace to stabilize the artifact. Using the knowledge they had gained from previous missions, she managed to reinitialize its core systems, sending out a pulse that began to calm the surrounding tectonic activity. The pulse seemed to affect the rogue balancer as well. Its movements grew sluggish, its attacks less frenzied. The Zoltrak seized the opportunity, delivering a final blow that sent the rogue spiraling into the depths, lifeless. As the waters settled, the Zoltrak swam to the artifact, resting near its base as if guarding it. Its bioluminescent patterns returned to their usual rhythmic glow, a sign that the balance had been restored. Back on the Solace, Lena and her team reviewed the mission's success. They had saved Centaurus from destruction, but the cost had been high. The rogue balancer's presence had been a stark reminder of the dangers lurking in the galaxy, many of which were created by the very civilization that had sought to protect it. "We can't keep doing this piecemeal," Lucas said. "There are too many planets, too many variables. We need a larger strategy." Lena nodded. "Agreed. This mission has shown us that we're not just caretakers, we're mediators. We need to help humanity understand that the galaxy isn't ours to exploit. It's something we share, something we have to protect." As the Solace left Centaurus, Lena stood on the observation deck, watching the Zoltrak in its habitat. It had once been humanity's greatest fear, but now it was a symbol of hope, a living bridge between ancient wisdom and humanity's future. "We're learning," Lena said softly, her reflection meeting the Zoltrak's glowing eyes. "It'll take time, but we'll get there." The Zoltrak let out a low, resonant sound, as if echoing her sentiment. Together, they gazed out at the stars, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, not as adversaries, but as allies in the fight to preserve the balance of the galaxy.